I did.
All right, so we've started the recording. Welcome everybody to this month's Read What You Want book club. Hello, Carol. Hello, Roseanne. Hello, Heidi. And without further ado, Roseanne's very excited to talk about a book.
Oh no, not excited. I dare people. I have
Oh.
never in my whole life picked up a book that I can't read. And the word is I cannot read it.
Okay.
Tried. I tried. It's written in English. And it's Yiddish English. And it's English, but I don't know. So I did what Carol does. I checked the reviews and it's got 4.1. But I love one girl who wrote exactly what I said. Could not understand it, couldn't read it, never saw anything like that in my life. And yet other people, some people wrote, I understood 1/3 of it, but I could not read it. So I was going like this for the first 20 pages, going, okay, let me see when it starts the English. Maybe I can read when it, okay. So I went page by page by page, got to the end, never could read a page.
So
Now,
Roseanne,
so that's
I'm
one.
I'm glad you're here today because I remember you said
somebody.
I have two books for you about older women. Remember you said you wanted older? So I have two to suggest when it's my turn.
Oh, she's frozen. Roseanne, you're frozen. Can you hear us?
But wait a second.
Okay.
You're no, she's cutting out.
That's you froze for us a minute ago. So, but you're unfrozen now. You're good. Go ahead. Tell us.
Okay.
You need someone to read it.
Okay. So anyway, please read somebody, please just see if you can read it. I just want you to somebody. Oh, I read it. I can't read it. It's not in
all right. You made your point. Let's move on.
But next, unbelievable. Ever had a dog or lived with a dog? This is the book.
Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
What's the story about? What kind of book is it?
Dog.
Is it a mystery?
No. It's just a dog.
How do you know? How do you know if you didn't read it?
This one she said she read.
Oh no, this is wonderful.
Oh, you're on the next one. I didn't see you switch books.
Yeah. This is about a dog who, after the tsunami in Japan, it's translated from Japan, Japanese, his masters died. So he traveled around, and you'll see, he went from person to person, like the littlest hobo, but he never talks. This dog doesn't talk, but if you ever had a dog in your life, this is the one. The other one that I read is very interesting.
The Twist of the Knife by Anthony Horowitz.
Anthony Horowitz.
Ooh.
Yes, he's in the novel. He's the one that gets accused of murder. Him, the novelist, Anthony Horowitz, the wife, and everything. So, and he mentions Chris Nolan and all these people who are real people. I'm like, did he get arrested? did he write?
So, it's that whole meta fiction thing.
Yeah, it's like he's, and so supposedly it's the first of one of his. I think he's done two others where he's in the book.
Yeah,
he is literally the one going through the murder and put in jail and the whole thing. I thought maybe that's what happened to him. I don't know. And the other one, Carol, is well, 8 Strings. If you want to read a book about puppeteering in Venice in the 1890s, that's 8 Strings. It's a lovely book. 8 Strings. But here goes. This is what I found on now, those of you who don't know, okay, you don't know me, but at 42, I took a year off work and backpacked around the world by myself.
Nice.
And I keep saying I'm going to do it one day, and I can sleep 10 in a room again, and I can sleep, I can do that thing. I take showers with everybody else and just pray that nobody's going to look at me, because that's what you do when you go stay in these hostels, because that's all I can afford. So, and I never met anybody close to my age, ever. But this is a book I found on the shelf. It's about a 75-year-old woman who moves into an old people's home and realizes that's not for her. So she goes on a trip to Europe by herself. So if I disappear in a couple of years, you'll know. I haven't read the book yet, I came across it. It's called A Grand Old Time. Life Begins at 75 miles per hour. I can't wait to put my fingers on it. That's what. So that's why I'm just saying. If I disappear, you know what?
Right on. And
Who told you about that book? How did you
she
know?
she just found it on a shelf.
Oh, is that like in the front where they have recommendations and everything?
She's frozen again, so we have to maybe wait for her answer. Oh, there you are. Are you back,
Was that
Roseanne?
in the front on recommendations by the staff?
Where
Oh,
did you find the
it's
book,
frozen.
Roseanne? Yeah.
It's on
Frozen.
and fiction. It's on fiction. It's in. I found it in the old stacks.
In the old stacks.
Where's
It
that?
just popped out at you, like
Did you
in the
get that?
nonfiction section.
In the fiction, where the old
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old books,
yeah,
where they
yeah, yeah.
all.
It's
And they
fiction.
have
So it's
some on the shelf.
it's a novel.
Oh.
It's fiction.
Oh, okay. I thought it
Yes,
was
it's fiction, but it might real. I do it.
Okay, is it my turn yet?
no, Roseanne's frozen a little bit again. Let's
Why
give
don't
her
you
a
go
minute.
off and come back on? Why don't you suggest
Yeah.
she leaves and come back on? She doesn't
We
have
can
a good
hear you again, Roseanne. What was it that you said?
I don't remember. This is the other book that I'm reading at the same time as this one. This is very interesting.
That's Summer in Berlin.
Yeah, but here goes. I started this one, and I think it's hysterical.
The
This is
Boxing
about
Baroness.
boxing. That's right. Women who boxed at the end of at the beginning of the 20th century.
Wow.
Did we know that they would
Nope.
box in a certain way, and they were very and men would come, and they would pay the money and to see these women boxing. I only got part way because I started reading other books, but this one is good too. This one is very interesting.
Okay.
And these are new.
You've got a real range of different genres there this month, Roseanne.
Light and airy, except for this. This.
But like there's historical fiction, there's more contemporary. That's cool. Thank you. All right, Carol.
Oh yeah, okay. But nothing highbrow.
Nothing highbrow.
So, first question for you, Katie, is our reading history. How do we find out what books I've taken out in the past since you have this new wonky new system?
So if we had sent out emails from the library before we did the transition, so if you wanted your history from the other system, you had to download it. Okay.
Now,
to find your history now, then you just log on to your account online. So you go to our library website, you go to My Profile, and one of the options.
It's not there.
It is there.
All right. So here's another question.
It's not reading list. That's not what it is.
Oh.
It's I'm trying to remember what it's called. Hold on, just one.
I'll try something else then. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Afterwards, if you want, we can stay on a minute and I'll find the actual name for it. I think it's it's right in the middle of the options.
Okay, thank you. Now the other thing is, the first book I want to recommend is Fit to Die. It's by Vancouver ER Dr. Daniel Calla, and he always writes about au courant medical things. His last one was The Darkness and the Light, something about some kind of medication for people to keep them more awake or whatever, and some of the patients were dying. But I want to say Fit to Die is about his latest one is about a pill by a health spa, and it has DNP, which is a poisonous material, and some of the people didn't know it, and it's very expensive, and some started to die. So they were looking into how that all came about. So his books are all au courant and sort of medical. But I didn't want to wait because for the hard copy. So I went on iCloud and I read it on iCloud. However,
Cloud Library.
yes. And it won't show. So what I was thinking of doing when I finally do get the book, I'll take it out for like 2 days and bring it back. So it'll be on my list of books I read. Because sometimes I don't remember. Go ahead. Is there another way to do it?
I was just going to say it's just in another spot, but in Cloud Library, it also keeps a record of your history of what you've read.
Yeah, I sort of realized that too. But does that take up data? Does that take up space on my? No.
Not that I know of. It just it's just an automatic thing. It just keeps track of your history. So does, or so did Libby. Like that's
Okay.
it's just part of it's
Yeah, I
another
figured. Okay, so I can always go to that because I like to recommend books to other friends. The other book, which I think I mentioned to you, Roseanne, was The Edge of Summer. It's a girl brought up by her single mother, and she doesn't know why. There's no other family, but her mother collects and she buttons, and she knows the history of buttons. It's very interesting. Highly recommend it to everybody. And again, it's a mystery to find out, her past. There was one other book. Oh, I'm reading now. What am I reading now? By Viola Shipman, which is a man who used his grandmother's name.
Really?
Yeah, his name is Wade Russo, Wade something. And what am I reading now? The Secret of Snow.
Why did he use his mother's name? Why did he use grandmother's name? What was the book about?
I don't know. It says it on the flap. I don't remember.
So, all of Viola Shipman's books, they're very like women's lives and relationships, gentle reads, kind of softer books. And I wonder then if he used, that's funny that he used a woman's name as a pen name to basically attract the audience that he wants, because this is that people who read often like books like this, then they would be probably more wary to read from, maybe not wary, just less inclined to read.
Well, it's hard to believe he's a man, but I mean, I see he's gay, but it's that he's written all these books as a woman.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. So this one, The Secret of Snow, is very good. A 50-year-old, she has a job in Palm Springs or somewhere in California, and she gets fired, and she has to go back to Michigan, and she's living with her mother. And an old friend who she wasn't nice to in high school hires her for the local TV station to be she's not a weather person, she's a meteorologist. So I'm like halfway through. Like I say, it's easy reading. And again, Roseanne, I thought of you because it's an older
protagonist.
Whoa, what's that word? I don't know that.
Protagonist is like the hero of the story, the lead character.
Okay. And then I have to admit, I'm sort of tired of reading the 1800s. I like all these old Courant books for now. I like things that are like, they talk about COVID, they talk about, things that we can really identify with. So, and there was another book I read, and it was sort of set in not Montreal, but somewhere here. Again, anyway. So I'm enjoying reading again. And especially easy reading. Where is everybody? You used to have like 12 people.
Well, I know that Carol and Rona both had appointments today, the unavoidable appointments, so they weren't able to come. So both were like, please make sure to record.
Okay, did they suggest anything?
Oh, you know what? Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
So before you go there, I just want to mention one more. Roseanne, have you read Lessons in Chemistry? That's for our book. I have read it. That's also about
for what book club is that?
Antonella's on Thursdays, once a month.
But I'm not in there.
Pardon?
But I'm not in it.
No, it's closed. She already has her 12 people.
But we've talked about that book a couple of times already in this group too.
But have you read it, Roseanne? Because again, it's somebody who's like 40, 50. And
she's not 40 or 50 in the
30?
book.
She's 30?
Probably.
Oh, all right. But anyway, it's also Well, that takes place in the 60s,
Yeah.
when women weren't really given proper due for their things.
Yeah.
So she's a chemist. And she has a dog and a little daughter. And the dog talks. He puts his 2 cents in. It's hysterical. And of course, then she gets it. And then she gets a job as a
Researcher.
cooking on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking.
From there.
And she tries to incorporate some of the chemistry into her broadcasts. And somehow the people like it, but the people she works for don't. But anyway, it's been on bestseller for some time. I read it a few months ago. It's really good.
I think that my memory's not working as per usual, but so this is the first book by this author, and I think that it was published like the day before her 50th birthday or something like that. So she has a career in publishing, and this is her first book of fiction, and it is like, yeah, it's blown up all the critical reviews and everything like that. It's a really fun book. It's a fast read.
Yeah. So I recommend it to both of you.
But are you, Katie, you're writing it all down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also it will be recorded, so you can always go back to, but I'm going to, I don't think that I've been lately, I don't think I have been adding all the titles after our meetings because it's recorded. So I'm like, well, we could just always go back to it, but I'll include all the titles this time.
I'm done.
All right. Heidi, you want to hit us with what you've been reading?
Well, I'm finally starting to read again. You know, I had a hip replacement with complications.
Yeah.
And I have been doing nothing but exercise.
Are you feeling any better?
Yeah, but I'm still not walking on my own.
No.
You
It's
know.
a long road, I think.
I am in the house.
Yes.
But outside, I still have to be on a walker, but I stitched the plain old walker for inside, so it's good.
Okay.
That is very normal. I must tell you, I had both hips replaced a year apart. I never thought I'd have to have the second one. And somehow I was fine in the house walking around. And as soon as I went outside, it was so difficult. I don't understand it, but you're normal. So don't worry about it. I needed a walker.
Carol is 5 months. And everybody just tells me, okay, you're 85 and it takes longer than your first one. Because
I don't know about that.
But also you had complications.
Right.
Like you can't say 5 months from the surgery because there were complications that needed to be dealt with.
Okay,
right?
fine. Anyway, I have reading. By the way, Katie, I finally read the 7 Husbands.
Yes.
And I loved it.
I'm so glad.
I really liked it a lot. You know,
me too.
Insightful, and I just really loved it. It was really a good read.
Yeah.
What I've been reading lately, I've been reading Our Woman in Moscow by a woman called Beatrice Williams.
Okay.
It was published in 2020, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes place in the 50s. There's 2 sisters. And one of them falls in love with somebody from London, moves to London, and fights for the Russians. So they have to flee, and they end up in Russia. And she has a sister, and she's very upset about this whole thing. And in Moscow, it's a very interesting book because the way it's structured. It just talks about 3 women. One is a KGB person, she's a woman, and then these 2 sisters, and the story is told with them. And eventually the KGB finds out there's somebody not right in the spy problem there. They giving how should I say that? You know, I have long COVID, and my brain just doesn't work sometimes. information is getting back to the States, and they're trying to find out who it is. And this is basically the story. The ending is really very interesting because the wife of this spy, in the end, she is the new spy and takes everything back to the States. It was a very interesting book. It was a very good read, and I really, really enjoyed it. The other book I've been reading, I've just finished it. It's called The Researcher, and it's by Tana French. She's an Irish crime writer.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I really loved. She's very good with personality traits, and it's about a retired cop from Chicago who goes to Ireland because he wants peace and quiet. And there he gets drawn into a crime by a young girl who is looking for her brother who disappeared. And he's trying to find out what happened to him. And this is a really gripping story, and it's very beautifully written because he writes about the nature and how he likes it there. And then he gets so frustrated with the locals. You know, it's a very small village where he is. And I don't want to give away the end of it, but it's a good read.
Okay. Yeah, Tana French, I think she writes like psychological thrillers, hey?
Yes. This one is better than the one I read before. I read one that was called, what was it called? Oh God, my memory. The Likeness.
Okay.
And that was very difficult. It was also very long. So usually her books are quite long.
Okay.
And
but this one's worth it, The Researcher.
It's called The Searcher, not The
Oh,
Researcher.
Searcher.
So yes, but the other one was really there's a woman. She's a cop, and she gets sent underground to find out a crime that was committed. A woman got killed, and I found that just a bit long-winded.
Okay.
And the other book I read, finally finished. I read that, I think, for 3 months. It's called Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. And it's about, well, it's obviously not a fiction book. It's about how we treat our elderly, how we shouldn't treat them, how the medical system basically takes a lot away from old people, you know, that are not well anymore, are in nursing homes, want to keep them safe all the time, and basically takes away their joy in life. I mean, they can't do anything, and it's
their agency.
Yes, he really proposes, well, let them do what they want to do, and if they want to go because they do what they want to do, well, let them do that.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's sort of like what we were talking about, you and I, the last time we saw each other.
Yes. And my daughter, who is an emergency room doctor, you know, she very much proposes it. And she said the problem with doctors is really that they have to fight the families usually and the system, instead of saying, okay, she's at the end, she doesn't want anymore, why do any extra stuff? She doesn't want it, or he doesn't want it, you know. And it took me a long time to read it, especially the last chapters about how you have to let them die. No proposal for, you know, suicide or anything. It's just let them do what they want to do. Okay, don't wrap them in bubble wrap. So that they can't do what they want.
Okay, Being Mortal.
It took me a long time to get through this book, you know. But my daughter really wanted me to read it because I know she doesn't believe in extra measures, but she's an emergency room doctor.
Yeah.
So they have a totally different attitude to it too.
Well, it sounds like some interesting perspectives. Again, really nice. All three of you reading like a great variety of different kinds of books.
And I read another one. It's called The Dove Keepers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who wrote that. It was also
That's Alice Hoffman.
yes, yes, and well, that was a hard read because it took so long. I think it was almost 600 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting because it takes place at the destruction of the temple. I don't know what time there was, sometime before BC, and they all moved into the desert. And
Mm-hmm.
and they live up there and they fight the Romans eventually. I found that very difficult to read because it was so long, but it was interesting. And that's just about all I read. The
Well,
funny,
that's a lot.
well, not really. Well, I read some really crappy stuff in between.
Oh my gosh, I've been reading so much garbage lately, but I'm gonna, before I get to what I've been reading, I'm going to talk about what Rona has been reading, if I can find what I did with it.
Actually, I forgot one of the books that I went to if you should read this for the summer or whatever that the library had.
Yeah.
I took it out. Ramirez, the one that talks about Ruthie, somebody missing Ruth Ramirez. It's oh my God, I don't know what she loved about that book. It wasn't great.
Oh, let me see if I can grab that
It was
title.
a cover with a girl on it. That's why I'm looking at what you told us to do, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get my profile. Like, what do you do? You look at what do you tell Carol to do? My profile?
Yes.
Yeah, you look at my
Carol, it's
profile.
asking me for a barcode. I don't know what my barcode is.
It's on the bottom. Does it? Because they set you up. Read what it says. See at the bottom, it says use whatever.
No, it says barcode. I have to put a barcode and a password. So that's probably why and yet I did it at the library. Somebody did it for me at the library.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So
Sorry, what are you trying to do, Roseanne?
I'm trying to do, but it keeps asking me for my barcode and my password.
So your barcode is your library barcode?
Well, I don't know, have that with me.
Oh, well, you have it somewhere.
Yeah, but she did it in the library. She said that I just have to put in my phone number, but I can't
Well,
do
it
that.
looks like maybe it wasn't saved then.
Oh, okay. Get that. What else is new?
But
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's another one I read. Well, now I've forgotten already. This is getting really bad, I tell you. I'm trying to get to some place to do something about my forgetfulness. It's since I had my last COVID. I've had COVID twice, and the last one was terrible. Forget it. It will come in about 5 minutes.
At least
Okay.
it comes.
Oh yeah, I read The Five Little Indians.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I read it. I loved that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I don't have the title for the next book for the book club book. It seems like a few of you have read Five Little Indians, and then some of you have requested Five Little
here it is.
Indians. But we're moving into right now. We've got two titles tied
Okay,
for
this is the book. This is the book. What Happened to Ruth Ramirez by Claire Jimenez.
Okay.
That's one of the ones she recommended. I forget. I think it was Miraid, one of them.
And
Anyway,
you didn't like it.
no, because a lot of Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. You see that's what I don't understand. With the book that I say that I say please read it. I can speak some Yiddish. I know. I mean, I have that's what my grandmother and grandfather spoke to me all the time. It was not my first language, like my parents. But the thing is, but I still couldn't read it because
Okay.
it was way over my head, and also it was not translated anywhere.
That was one of Hannah's picks. What Happened to Ruth Ramirez by Jimenez or?
Yeah, too much Spanish. So I mean, I was totally lost.
Okay.
So what's the choice now? Have you got a choice yet?
No, I think I'm going to send out an email probably tomorrow. I gave as my new deadline for people's requests or people's choices is tomorrow. So I'll wait till tomorrow to see if any more emails come trickling in.
Did you get mine? Because I sent it.
I did. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to reply to it yet. That's
It's okay, it's fine. I was if you got it.
this is last week was my first week back from after taking a
Okay.
week vacation. So I came
I
back
know
to
what
like
you mean.
80 emails. And then this week, one of my colleagues is away. And so I'm taking on some of her responsibilities as well. So I'm sort of juggling again. Anyway, that's just to say that I'm even worse at replying to emails than I usually am. But so I've got some, so Rona sent an email saying that she wouldn't be able to make it today because she has a doctor's appointment. But she did say that she would rather be here. She, her books that she's been reading lately and that she recommends are Falling, a novel by T.J. Newman. The Matchmaker's Gift by Linda Cohen-Loigman. I've heard about that one as well. That she doesn't have any comments though about the books, but she just says these are the books. Falling, The Matchmaker's Gift by Linda Cohen-Loigman, The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. That one I just heard about recently too. Oh, she said she's actually just starting The Measure. And then she said that she's also read Five Little Indians, but she thinks that it would make a great timely discussion, but she's open to any other book on the list. And she looks forward to seeing us in August. So I will include those as well in the email. And then for myself, earlier we were just talking, Carol, about how to check your reading histories. And I found this morning, I was like, what have I been reading? I feel like I've only been reading like 2 authors. But so I had to check my reading history in like 4 different places because I belong to multiple libraries. And I knew that, and I've been reading a lot online lately. So you guys have infected me with your whole romance vibe. I've been reading a ton of romance. I've been reading Ali Hazelwood. I don't know if you guys know her. She's okay. She's a little sexy, just a little bit racy, but her thing is all like she's a scientist, and all of her protagonists are like women in STEM. So they're all kind of scientists, scientific sort of based. I find them really smart and funny, the storylines. So I read The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain. I read a book called Token by Beverly Kendall. That's another romance book, and it's about a woman who starts her own kind of PR company, taking advantage. Basically, it begins with her temping at an agency that is basically run by white men, and they really want an account by a very popular Black singer, and they need to look like they're not just all middle-aged white men. So they basically hire her and give her this enormous bonus to just look like she works there for this meeting. And then from there, then she starts her own company. And I found that one fun as well. There's another romance called Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. That one it reminded me of like the kind of like X-Files. So it's about these 2 television stars who were in this long-running series. There's some kind of falling out that we don't know about at the beginning, and then like they're thrown back together after one of them has left the show for a period of years. And then, I think I mentioned this one before. I read this like at the beginning of June, so I still included it. But Roseanne, I thought of you when I was reading this one. I feel like I might have mentioned it to you, but I'm not sure. Verena Palladino's Jersey Italian Love Story. Did I mention this already?
Wait a minute. Didn't we read something? Oh, no, that was okay. Something
I
about
like that title.
It's a great title. And so I feel like I mentioned it before. I might have read it even before our
Isn't it
last
about
Read What You Want.
the grandmother, they were trying to fix up the grandmother?
No, the grandmother and the daughter are trying, or the mother and the daughter are trying to okay, there are three generations in New
That's right.
Jersey, and the grandmother and the daughter are trying to fix up the mother.
That's right. And the grandmother ends up with a boyfriend.
Yeah, you did end up reading
I
it.
love it. I
I'm
love
not
it.
sure.
Are you
Yeah, I'm
kidding?
not sure if we if I talked about it in the whole, but like, so every
No.
chapter, okay.
I would remember that.
So it's very cute and fun and light, and
What's
it's like a family story, and it's a romance, but like kind of a gentle, light romance. And romance isn't entirely the whole thing of it, although it's definitely an element. It follows three generations of this New Jersey Italian family,
Love it.
and
What's the name of it?
it's called Verena Palladino's Jersey Italian Love Story.
Oh, wow. I'm going to request it.
We have it in large print and in regular print and
Okay.
online.
I think you
And
sent it to me. That's how I got it. I think
pardon?
I asked you to send it to me, and you put it in the mobile library.
Yeah.
Are you
That's
going
it must have been one time.
Are you going to put it on the list?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll add it on
I
the
will
list.
Oh, you're
never
gonna love
remember
it.
any of
You're
this.
gonna love it. You're
Oh,
gonna
it sounds
love it.
adorable.
It's pretty adorable, and the author has this like fascination with language as well. So at the beginning of every chapter is like some sort of Jersey Italian word or expression, where then like she explains like sort of the roots of this expression and the name itself, which is kind of fun too.
I'd like
And
to know
then
what your husband is reading. You're reading all these
well,
what
wait,
is
let
he
me finish,
reading?
because I read so there were all those romancy ones. And then there was also a nonfiction book that I finished called Breath by James Nestor. That was really, really interesting, I found. It was like breathing, like how often do we actually think about breathing? But this was talking about like the importance of breath and different, like I can't believe that it was a whole book, but I found it so interesting. Super, super interesting. And I was very, very conscious of my breathing for a long time. He did these different experiments of like only breathing through your mouth for a period of time and then only breathing through your nose, and then like talked about like different cultures and their fascinations or like their perceptions on how breathing actually, what kinds of breathing are the most beneficial. It was like, it doesn't sound, I know, a book about breathing it doesn't sound like it would be entirely engaging, but I have found that with myself and with reading, I'm going to use quotation marks here, but nonfiction, I really like to listen to. So I don't like audiobooks, generally speaking, unless they're nonfiction. I've tried many different kinds of fiction. I can do it occasionally. If it's nonfiction, or if it's like, I listened to one on Greek myths recently. Um, but yeah, like I really, really enjoy listening to nonfiction, and then I'll listen to it when I'm driving, when I'm walking somewhere, when I'm cooking or doing something else in the house. Like and I look forward to then getting stuff done so that I can go back to my book. Whereas reading, like in an actual physical book, nonfiction, I will always choose fiction over nonfiction. I think I've learned that about myself. I will always choose fiction over nonfiction. Um, and then I read a couple of other books. There was Flamingo by Rachel Elliott. It's a newer book. It's British and contemporary, and it was really interesting. It starts off with this male character who uh, is sort of at a loss. Basically, he goes through this breakup, and then like basically gets rid of his house and his like leaves his job and starts living on the like basically like tramping. And it's told a little bit in non-linear, so it goes back and forth sort of through time, like from when he was a kid, and it changes narrators a little bit, but it was a lovely book. It was a really interesting character study, I found. And then yeah, that's it. My husband, Tom's not been reading much. He's not a fast reader. He is reading right now an Ian,
I figure if you're reading the romance, he's leaving it up to you or something. Maybe you should both be.
well, I just like I pretty much I've just been into page turners. Like I want books that I can read in sort of a day or two. So, I mean, there have been more literary ones. Oh, a fun one that I read was Sloane Crosley. Sloane Crosley wrote a book called Cult Classic. And I had read her nonfiction before. She's written, I think 2 or 3 different nonfiction ones, and they're sort of anecdotal books, sort of like think David Sedaris or who else would be, but just kind of like short, funny stories like Nora Ephron, like these short sort of snippets. Um, and then I read this book of hers, Cult Classic, and it's I really enjoyed it, but it's contemporary set in New York. Main character is like say 30 something. Little bit like a kind of offbeat romantic comedy, I guess. Yeah, ghosts of boyfriends past. But it was fun. And yeah, what is Tom reading? Trying to remember the name of the author. Ian, the last name starts with an M. McEwan. He's reading Ian McEwan, and I believe the book that he's reading right now is Lessons. But he's been reading that one for about 2 months.
Sounds like me.
We all go through these phases, right? And this is like sometimes, usually in the summer, I do lean towards romance and science fiction. And in the winter, I lean towards mysteries. And then in the fall, I read more literary things. And in the anyway, and then I'm reading books for my different book clubs. So I'm rereading A Gentleman in Moscow. And I also have Elizabeth Hay's new book, which I haven't started reading yet, Snow Road Station. But I'm looking forward to that because I really, really like Elizabeth Hay. I haven't read a book of hers that I don't like yet.
You know what I miss? I miss that we don't have a stamp at the end of the book so you can see if people have read the book. Because when I went to the stacks, I looked for books that were never read. So I took a book and if I opened it up and if it cracked, I said that's the one. So I took about 10 books like that. But I'm not sure if that's the way to tell because you have no way of knowing if people have read the book. But if it looks pretty new, I mean, okay, that's for sure. But I
Yeah.
just picked books that I looked at that, oh, that looks like nobody else. There's no other book by this author. There's not a whole shelf of one particular author. So that's how I got all these books. But as I say, when I open it up and it cracks and it's 5 years old, I feel sad that book's been on the shelf for 5 years and nobody's read it.
Yeah, it's like the little puppy. It's like the little puppy that no one loves. You want to be like, let me
That's
give you a little bit of love.
That's right.
But then sometimes that puppy bites you and you realize why no one loves it.
What? Oh yeah, it's just true. But I want people, please, somebody read that book that I said. Please. I just need somebody to say to me, "Oh, Roseanne, I couldn't do it either," because we're 4 people here. If one more person, because I think I have Alzheimer's because I can't read.
Well, you saw on Goodreads or wherever it was, right, that other people had read it.
Yeah, and they loved it, except for I told you 1 or 2 who said. But I would just like to know. I don't know how they read it. I can't read it. That's the whole thing. I can't read it. It's not readable.
But this is it, right? It seems like from our discussion here is that something that's taking you out of the flow of a couple of these books is the other languages sort of integrated into it. And for some people, that's not a problem, either because they know the other language or because they gloss past it and expect to sort of get it from the context. But for you, I think that's probably just a deal breaker with books.
No, I can read books that have other languages in them. It's just that this one is not. It has no periods and capitals. It has pages and pages of one sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, and then of course it's that language that in that accent. I don't know. I just need somebody to read it to tell me, Roseanne, you're not crazy.
Yeah, but somebody already verified that for you on
I don't know them. I can't talk to them.
Oh, you want somebody you know. Oh.
There's a
different.
book that I had heard recommended. It's called, this is a while ago, and I started to read it. And I like that kind of thing. I like these weird I like weird books a lot of the time. Experimental-ish books. But there's this book that was recommended that I heard about on the radio. I have to be in the mood for it. But there was a book that was recommended. It's called Ducks Newburyport. And it's by Lucy Ellman. And it is basically one sentence, the entire book. It's just like, it's like stream of consciousness, like there's no real punctuation from it. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. And so I started it and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this right now, but I'm going to go back to it at some point. But Roseanne, stay away from it. No punctuation. You won't like it.
No, but I can deal with that stuff. I could figure it out. This one I couldn't because
Yeah.
you can pages and pages and pages. But what's really nice about it, and this is where you might appreciate it, because I was going through one page, never read. I couldn't read anything. I was trying to find where it speaks English or where I could read. It's English. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It is English. What it is it's a story of a woman who survived the Holocaust and who tells a story, and then she meets somebody in Philadelphia who's black, who speaks Yiddish, who translate her story. But what is interesting was the only part that I really thought was interesting was they had about 15, 20 pages of just the same thing, of exactly the same thing, like you said. Well, no, the same thing was written with what it was is the whole town, except for these two Jewish kids who were hiding in the forest. The whole 217 people died. Well, when she went back, because she was there, she went through the hole and checked to see who they were, to see while they were lying there in the pit, and she would write, and that's how she wrote. Yachel Novik, mother, 2 children, seamstress, and then she'd say the prayer of the dead. Then she'd go the next. So for about 20 pages, that's what it is. 207. That's very interesting. Where the same prayer after every single person, and some of them she didn't know because they were so mangled. She'd say, "May your soul be rested," and that's it. So they had like a whole bunch of pages. All just of the 217 people. And that was very interesting.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. That was spoken more in English that I could read what.
So you didn't make it, and you didn't finish the book.
I couldn't. I just could, and yet it's in English.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand I don't know. I'd love somebody even just to read, like even the Dust Village. What is this? I mean, I didn't understand what the names of the chapters were.
Why are we still talking about this over and over?
Because somebody to read it.
Well, because she's curious, confused, wants to
made her
discuss
point
it
many times, and I want to move on.
What do you want to move on to, Carol?
Well, who
We've
else
all talked
recommended?
Pardon?
You said Rona, and who else sent you a list?
Carol didn't send me a list. She just said she wasn't going to be able to make it today.
Oh, okay.